So I've drawn up here on the board uh, a very traditional lesson, something that you typically would see if you walk into just any traditional class here in FCPS. It tends to start with a warm up, and that could be something on paper or just some sort of activity that gets students in the routine and the flow of the class. And then they move into some type of direct instruction that's followed by some sort of guided practice or demonstration. Uh, then we move into some independent practice where students are trying out practice problems, working on the project, whatever the task may be. And then the class typically ends with some sort of assessment or closure. It could be an exit ticket, something like that, so that you can evaluate what students know, what did they learn during that day, and how to make adjustments for the next class. So this is a very typical kind of traditional lesson plan where all the students is whole group, and they're kind of working through all at the same pace, kind of in lockstep with the teacher. So now we're going to take this typical traditional lesson plan and turn it into a blended learning playlist model. It's going to look something like this. We're going to keep our warm up so that students still have those routines. We're going to keep our assessment so that we can have some closure and try to assess where students are, make adjustments for the next day or the next unit, whatever the case may be. And in a playlist model, we're going to keep those activities and we're going to put them into a playlist. And so in an individual rotation model, it looks like this. Would start with activity 2, and whenever they finish, they can just move on to activity 3. When they're done with activity 3, they would move on to activity 4. And so now you're giving students a lot more control over the pace of their learning path. So they don't have to wait for the other 29 students to be ready to move on to the next thing. And so now you can give over that control of pace. You can still differentiate. You could have 2 different playlists. So you could have, the blue playlist and the gold playlist. So in this model, there's 2 different playlists. One where students are doing activities 2, 3, and 4, and another playlist where they're doing activities 5, 6, and 7. And you could mix and match any combination of this. It could say, 5 or 8 before you move on to 6. So now you're building in some choice within each of these activities. So lots of different options and variations that you can do with a playlist. But here, students are controlling the pace. And now engage students on the playlist where they're working through at their own pace. That frees that teacher up to walk around, to pull small groups or even individual students. So again, starting to build in some student agency as well as building some executive functioning skills with time management